Ladies and gentlemen, let us begin with a simple question. What is a demon? Is it a being lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike, or is it something more intimate, something closer than we dare to admit? The idea of a demon is not new. Cultures across the world have painted them in myths and legends, each a reflection of collective fears and desires. But I invite you today to look beyond these stories, to see that a demon is not a creature apart from us, but an expression of forces we often refuse to face. The first sign someone is a demon is their ability to awaken fear. But what is fear if not the voice of the unknown? The fear they inspire may not be their doing, but a reflection of our unexamined mind. Second, they wield charm not as a gift, but as a mirror. For what charms us often reveals what we crave, exposing the unspoken desires that drive us. Third, they thrive in chaos. Yet, chaos is not destruction, it is transformation. A demon does not bring chaos to ruin, but to unveil new patterns hidden in the old. Fourth, they seem to carry knowledge not meant for the ordinary. But knowledge, whether divine or forbidden, is neutral. It is our reaction that colors it as good or evil. Fifth, a demon challenges your reality. They shake the foundation of what you know, leaving you questioning not them, but yourself. Sixth, they provoke confrontation not with them, but within. They push you to wrestle with parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. And finally, a demon transcends judgment. They are neither villain nor savior, they simply are. They embody the interplay of light and shadow, calling us to move beyond duality into wholeness. Perhaps the true sign of a demon is not in their presence, but in their ability to awaken something within us: fear, desire, chaos, or transformation. These are not signs of their power, but of ours untapped, unexamined, waiting to be claimed. So I leave you with this thought: the demon you see may not be an enemy, but a teacher, not a destroyer, but a guide. And in understanding them, you might just understand yourself. The world we perceive is often divided neatly into opposites: good and evil, light and dark, right and wrong. This division feels natural, even necessary, for it simplifies a complex reality, helping us navigate the chaos. But what if this duality is an illusion? What if the boundaries we draw between these opposites are not inherent in the fabric of existence, but are projections of the human mind? Consider the notion of good and evil. We often assume these forces are locked in eternal opposition, but does evil exist as a force unto itself, or is it simply the absence, distortion, or misunderstanding of good? Much like shadow exists only because of light, what we label as evil may be nothing more than the interplay of circumstances, choices, and perspectives. The demon, the villain, the outcast, they do not see themselves as the embodiment of evil. To them, their actions might be justified, even noble. This paradox reveals that good and evil are not absolutes, they are deeply intertwined and dependent on the observer's point of view. This illusion of duality also pervades our inner lives. We label some parts of ourselves as virtuous and acceptable, while banishing others to the shadows of shame and suppression. Anger, jealousy, fear, these emotions are demonized, seen as forces to overcome rather than energies to understand. Yet these so-called negative traits often carry profound lessons. Anger can highlight our boundaries, jealousy can teach us about our desires. The parts of ourselves we fear and reject are not separate from us, they are integral to who we are. The light we seek cannot exist without the darkness we deny. Look to nature, where duality dissolves into unity. Day and night, summer and winter, predator and prey, these are not in conflict but in balance, each giving rise to the other. A predator's hunt is not cruelty but necessity. The cycle of life is not a battle between forces but a dance of interdependence. Why, then, do we insist on seeing ourselves and others through a lens of opposition? Our tendency to split the world into dual categories reflects a deeper need for control. It is easier to label something as evil than to confront its complexity. It is simpler to declare ourselves good than to admit our flaws. But in doing so, we fragment our understanding of reality and alienate ourselves from the whole. When we transcend this illusion, we see that opposites are not enemies but partners. Light does not vanquish darkness, it defines it. Order does not destroy chaos, it emerges from it. The demon, then is not a force to be banished, but a shadow to be understood. In abandoning the illusion of duality, we embrace the fullness of life. We see that everything, from the brightest light to the darkest shadow, is a reflection of the same source. And in that unity we find not only understanding but liberation. For the line between good and evil does not run through the world, it runs through each of us, reminding us of our wholeness. The concept of masks is deeply rooted in human existence. We wear them, consciously or unconsciously, to navigate the complexities of life, to protect ourselves, to influence how others perceive us, or to fulfill roles imposed by society. But these masks are not merely tools of deception, they are windows into the layers of the human psyche. They reveal the many faces we assume to make sense of our identities and the world around us. Every individual plays multiple roles, often shifting between them effortlessly. We may be a caregiver in one moment, a leader in another, or a seeker of solace in times of vulnerability. These roles are masks, not in the sense of falsifying who we are, but as expressions of different facets of our being. Each mask is a reflection of an archetype, an ancient and universal pattern of behavior that resides in the collective unconscious. They are not imposed upon us, rather, we step into them as part of the dance of human interaction. However, some masks run deeper than others, concealing parts of ourselves we'd rather not face. When someone is labeled a demon, it is often because they have donned a mask that reflects qualities society deems unacceptable: anger, cunning, or raw ambition. But are these masks inherently evil, or are they projections of fears and desires we repress within ourselves? The so-called demon may simply be someone unafraid to embody aspects of humanity we all possess but choose to hide. The masks we wear can also distort how we perceive others. When we encounter someone who disrupts our sense of order or morality, it is tempting to assign them a role, a mask, that simplifies their complexity. They become the villain, the adversary, the shadow in our story. Yet what we fail to see is that these masks are not permanent, they are fluid. Just as light and shadow shift with the movement of the sun, so too do the roles people play evolve with time and circumstance. What happens when the masks we wear become so convincing that we lose sight of the face beneath? When someone becomes identified solely with their role, the mask becomes a prison. This is as true for the so-called demon as it is for the hero. The person playing the villain may be trapped in a narrative they did not write, unable to escape the expectations of others or their own self-perception. To see beyond the masks of the mind requires compassion and courage. It demands that we look past the roles people play and recognize the humanity that lies beneath. It also requires introspection, a willingness to confront the masks we ourselves wear and question why we hide behind them. Masks are neither good nor bad, they are tools. They allow us to explore the depths of who we are and connect with the many layers of existence. The challenge lies in remembering that beneath every mask lies a face, and behind every role, a soul seeking understanding. The allure of the forbidden, the draw toward what lies hidden in the dark, has fascinated humanity for centuries. This seduction of shadows is not merely a theme of myths or cautionary tales, but a profound psychological phenomenon. Shadows, both literal and metaphorical, represent the unknown, the suppressed, and the mysterious. They evoke both fear and fascination, urging us to confront aspects of ourselves and the world that remain obscured. Well, to understand the seduction of shadows, one must first recognize their inherent duality. Shadows exist because of light. They are not independent entities, but byproducts of illumination. Similarly, the aspects of life and self we cast into the shadows are not separate from us. They are part of the whole, concealed not because they are inherently evil or wrong, but because they challenge the boundaries of what we are comfortable acknowledging. It is this act of concealment, this rejection of the darker elements, that gives shadows their power. What is forbidden often becomes irresistible. The very act of labeling something as taboo imbues it with an aura of mystery and danger. This is true of cultural norms, moral restrictions, and even personal fears. We are drawn to what we are told to avoid, not because we are inherently rebellious, but because the shadow contains a promise of liberation. It holds the potential to break free from the limitations imposed by society and self. But the seduction of shadows is not without risk. The darker aspects of life, anger, jealousy, desire, are powerful forces. When ignored or denied, they do not disappear, they fester, growing stronger in the unconscious. When we finally encounter them, they can overwhelm us, leading to destructive behaviors or inner turmoil. This is why myths often portray shadows as dangerous, as demons or tricksters. Yet their danger lies not in their essence, but in our unwillingness to face them. There is also beauty in the shadow. Artists, poets, and mystics have long recognized that the deepest truths often reside in the dark. The shadow invites introspection, a journey into the hidden recesses of the soul, where creativity and authenticity are born. In the silence of the shadow, we can hear whispers of forgotten dreams, suppressed desires, and unacknowledged truths. The seduction of shadows challenges us to confront what we fear. It beckons us to step into the unknown, not to be consumed by it, but to understand it. When we embrace the shadow, we find that it is not our enemy, but a teacher. It reveals the parts of ourselves we have disowned, urging us toward wholeness. Ultimately, the shadow is a mirror. What we see in its depths is not an external force, but a reflection of our inner world. To succumb to its seduction is not to fall into darkness, but to find balance, to integrate the hidden with the visible, and to recognize that the interplay of shadow and light is what makes us fully human. Energy surrounds and permeates everything, shaping the world in ways both visible and unseen. Yet energy does not always appear as we expect. It wears disguises, cloaking itself in forms that challenge our understanding and push us to reevaluate our perceptions. What we often fear, misunderstand, or reject may be nothing more than energy expressing itself in ways we have not yet learned to recognize or accept. Consider the energies we label as destructive: anger, chaos, or ambition. These forces are frequently vilified, seen as dangerous or negative. Yet they are simply forms of raw energy, neither inherently good nor bad. Anger, for instance, arises as a response to perceived injustice or violation. It is a signal, an alert that something within us demands attention. Left unchecked, it can erupt destructively, but when understood and channeled, it becomes a powerful force for change and boundary setting. Chaos, too, is often misunderstood. It feels unsettling because it disrupts the order we cling to, yet chaos is the birthplace of creativity. Before any great transformation, whether in nature, art, or personal growth, there is a period of upheaval, a breaking down of the old to make way for the new. This energy, though uncomfortable, is not the enemy, it is a catalyst. Even ambition, often criticized for its perceived selfishness, is energy in disguise. At its core, ambition is the drive to achieve, to create, to push beyond limits. When it becomes self-centered or obsessive, it may lead to harm, but in its purest form, it fuels progress and innovation. The problem is not the energy itself, but how it is directed and understood. The disguises energy wears are not limited to emotions or personal drives. In the natural world, energy often appears as destruction, volcanic eruptions, storms, or wildfires. Yet these phenomena are part of a larger cycle. A wildfire clears deadwood, making room for new growth. A storm replenishes water supplies and reshapes the landscape. What seems destructive in the moment is, in fact, energy at work, maintaining balance and fostering renewal. When energy wears a disguise, our instinct is often to resist or suppress it. We see the mask and mistake it for the truth, fearing what lies beneath. But resistance only amplifies the energy, turning it into something that feels uncontrollable. The key is not to fight, but to understand, to look beyond the disguise and recognize the purpose and potential of the energy within. Energy in disguise challenges us to expand our awareness. It asks us to let go of rigid judgments and to see beyond appearances. When we do, we find that even the most unsettling forces carry within them the seeds of growth, transformation, and healing. To embrace this energy is to acknowledge its role in the tapestry of life, understanding that it exists not to harm but to move us forward, often in ways we cannot yet foresee. Fear is one of the most primal emotions we experience, woven into the fabric of our being. It is a whisper, quiet yet potent, speaking to us from the depths of our subconscious. Though fear is often seen as a weakness, an enemy to overcome, it is in truth a guide, a voice that points us toward the unknown, the unresolved, and the unresolved, and the unacknowledged. Yet the subtlety of fear's whisper often makes it difficult to confront. At its core, fear is a survival mechanism designed to protect us from harm. It sharpens our senses, heightens our awareness, and prepares our bodies to face threats. This evolutionary purpose is clear when we encounter immediate physical danger, but fear does not limit itself to the physical realm. It speaks to us in situations where the threat is intangible fear of failure, rejection, change, or even our potential. In these moments, fear becomes a mirror, reflecting not external dangers but our internal vulnerabilities. The power of fear lies not in its volume but in its persistence. A whisper can go unnoticed if we are too busy or distracted, yet it lingers, waiting for quiet moments to be heard. Fear often whispers questions we would rather avoid. What if I'm not enough? What if I try and fail? What lies beyond what I know? These whispers nudge us toward growth, forcing us to confront the boundaries of our comfort zones. The discomfort they bring is not a punishment, but an invitation to explore what lies on the other side of our hesitation. However, fear gains its greatest strength when ignored or misunderstood. When we silence the whisper, it does not disappear, it grows louder in the shadows. It manifests in anxiety, procrastination, or even anger, disguising itself in forms that are harder to recognize. Unacknowledged fear becomes a phantom, haunting our decisions and keeping us from stepping into our full potential. The whisper, once a gentle guide, becomes a force that paralyzes. Listening to the whisper of fear requires courage, not to eliminate it, but to understand it. Fear often points us to the places where we hold the most potential for transformation. It signals what matters deeply to us, highlighting the areas where we have something to lose or gain. When we face it directly, we often find that it is not the situation itself that frightens us, but the stories we tell ourselves about it. The whisper of fear, then, is not our enemy. It is a teacher, calling us to pay attention to the parts of ourselves we might otherwise overlook. By leaning into fear, we discover that it often guards the threshold of growth. It is not there to stop us, but to challenge us, ensuring that we value what lies beyond. To listen to fear is to honor its message, understanding that it does not seek to limit us, but to prepare us for the journey ahead. In the quiet of its whisper, we find not just caution but clarity, a map to navigate the unknown with greater wisdom and strength. The trickster is a figure that appears in myths, folklore, and human psychology, embodying chaos, unpredictability, and transformation. Often seen as mischievous or disruptive, the trickster defies convention, shatters illusions, and challenges the status quo. Yet beneath the seeming disorder lies profound wisdom. The trickster's lesson is not in the chaos itself, but in what it reveals about the rigidity of our perceptions and the possibilities that arise when we embrace uncertainty. The trickster operates outside the rules, dancing between boundaries that most people fear to cross. They are neither wholly good nor entirely bad, existing in a liminal space where contradictions coexist. In this way, the trickster forces us to confront our need for control and order. When life unfolds predictably, we feel secure, but the trickster disrupts this, showing us that security is often an illusion. By upending our plans, the trickster reminds us that life is dynamic and ever-changing, and clinging to certainty blinds us to new opportunities. One of the trickster's most potent tools is humor. Through wit and absurdity, they highlight the flaws in our assumptions and expose the futility of taking ourselves too seriously. Laughter, in this context, becomes a form of liberation. It loosens the grip of ego and opens the door to self-awareness. The trickster's humor is rarely kind, yet it serves a purpose. It reveals truths that are difficult to accept in any other form, turning discomfort into a catalyst for growth. At times, the trickster's lessons can feel harsh or cruel. They do not offer comfort or reassurance, they thrive on disorientation and discomfort. Yet these moments of upheaval often lead to breakthroughs. When the trickster tears apart the structures we have built, be they beliefs, relationships, or ambitions, it is not to leave us in ruins, but to clear the way for something new. Their chaos forces us to adapt, to rethink, and to grow in ways we never anticipated. The trickster also challenges the boundaries between opposites, truth and deception, light and dark, good and evil. By blurring these lines, they force us to see the world not in black and white, but in shades of complexity. This is their greatest lesson, the recognition that life is not governed by absolutes, but by fluidity and balance. The trickster teaches us to question, to look beyond appearances, and to embrace the contradictions that define existence. To learn from the trickster requires humility. It demands that we let go of certainty and remain open to the unexpected. In doing so, we find that the trickster is not our adversary, but our ally, pushing us toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world. They do not provide answers, but provoke questions, leaving us to discover our truths in the midst of their chaos. The trickster's lesson is one of transformation. They are not here to destroy, but to awaken. In their disruptive dance, they show us that within every challenge lies the potential for renewal, and that the path to wisdom often begins where certainty ends.